The Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast. Welcome to the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society, a podcast dedicated to suspense, crime, and horror stories from the golden age of radio. I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Joshua.
We love mysterious old-time radio stories, but do they stand the test of time? That's what we're here to find out.
We continue to catch up on our listener library, episodes recommended by you, the suave and sophisticated listeners of this podcast. This week we're checking out Mars is Heaven, an episode recommended to us by Cheryl from the series XXXX -1. Get it?
X-1 ran on NBC from April 24th, 1955 to January 9th, 1958. The show featured adaptations of stories written by some of the biggest names in science fiction, including Isaac Asimov, Robert Bloch, Philip K. Dick, Robert A. Heinlein, Fritz Leiber, and in the case of today's episode, Ray Bradbury.
Mars is Heaven was originally published in 1948 in a magazine called Planet Stories. The story was retitled The Third Expedition when it appeared as the sixth chapter in Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles, published in 1950. The Martian Chronicles was Bradbury's famous collection of stories that he strung together into one novel-like narrative about the colonization of Mars.
Many other stories within the Martian Chronicles have been adapted to radio in one form or another, and Mars is Heaven itself has been adapted by a variety of shows, including Escape, ABC Radio Workshop, Future Tense, and of course X-1's predecessor, Dimension X.
One last bit of trivia for you. This episode features a performance by Mason Adams, whose numerous radio and television credits include the role of Charlie Hume in the series Lou Grant. Thank you, Cheryl, for recommending this one to us. Without any further ado, here is Mars is Heaven from X-1.
It's late at night, and a chill has set in. You're alone, and the only light you see is coming from an antique radio. Listen to the sounds coming from the speaker. Listen to the music, and listen to the voices.
Countdown for blastoff. X-5, -4, -3, -2, X-1. Fire! From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in 1,000,000 could-be years, on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company presents X minus one. Tonight's story, Mars is Heaven. When the first space rocket lands on Mars, what will we find? Only the ruins of a dead and deserted planet? Or will there be life? Intelligent life in some strange form that we can only imagine. Will we be welcomed with open arms? Or will the Martians treat us as invaders? Only one thing is certain. Someday, a giant metal ship will take off from Earth to travel through the black velocities, the silent gulfs of space, to descend at last into the darkness of the upper Martian atmospheres. And on that day, man will finally know the answers. The day we first land on Mars.
Now hear this. Now hear this. Approaching critical deceleration. Fasten gravity suits. Stand by to land.
There it is. We've intersected the course vector, sir.
All right, Mr. Lustig.
Over to manual control.
Aye, sir.
Masters, sound general quarters.
Aye, sir.
Mr. Lustig, what do you make of the terrain?
There seems to be a heavy ground, Miss Captain. We won't be able to use the infrared lights.
And we'll have to come in on radar.
Isn't that a little risky, sir? Landing in the dark?
I'd rather run the danger of a blind landing, Lieutenant, than come in without the cover of darkness. Remember, we don't know what kind of reception is waiting for us down there.
Airspeed 500. Altitude now 4,000.
Bridge to engine room. Stand by for deceleration. Fire forward tubes 1 and 3. Steady as she goes, Mr. Lustig.
As she goes, sir.
Airspeed 100. Altitude 1,000.
Radar indicates a level stretch dead ahead, sir.
Skids down.
Skids check.
Altitude 500. 4. 350. 3.
Up a point now. All right. Let's set her down. Cut the power. Masters, pipe battle stations.
Aye, sir. All secured, sir.
Well, gentlemen, we're now on Mars, April 20th, 1987, 4:33 Greenwich time. Enter that in the log, Masters.
Aye, sir.
Well, gentlemen, it's less than 2 hours till dawn. As soon as it's light, we'll send out a landing party. Masters, get me an all-over hookup.
We're all set, Captain.
Now hear this. All right, men. The smoking lamp is lit. Well, we're on Mars. The first manned ship from Earth to land here. We don't know what we're going to find or what dangers we may face. We're 17 men on an alien world, and it's up to us whether we ever get home again. The next few hours should tell the story, and I want instant obedience to all commands. I'll court-martial the first man who doesn't jump to when he's ordered. And one other thing. We may be on Mars, but this is still a United States naval vessel. Officers will conduct a personal and weapons inspection in 1 hour. That's all.
An inspection, Captain? Now?
Mr. Lustig, we've got an hour and a half to sweat out before we find out what's outside that airlock. I'd rather have a man worried about his stripes than about what's waiting outside on Mars.
Now hear this. Landing party report to forward airlock. Captain Black, Lieutenant Hingston, Lieutenant Lustig, and Dr. Horst report immediately to forward airlock. There's now landing time -5.
Well, they're paging us. You ready, Dr. Horst?
Yes, Mr. Lustig. As ready as I will ever be.
Come on, let's get in the lock. Hingston, Lustig, and Horst reporting in the airlock.
Very well, sir. The captain will join you.
4 minutes to go. At least the captain would get here.
What difference does it make?
I just want to get it over with, that's all. Anybody got a cigarette?
Yeah, I think you're smoking too much, Lieutenant Lustig. Are you nervous?
Lay off, will you, Horst?
Wondering what's hidden outside underneath that ground mist? I've been giving it some thought. It'll be very interesting to find out. A very unusual planet, Mars.
Why?
It has an atmosphere. A wonderful thing, an atmosphere. Where you find one, you find life.
You mean Martians? What do you think they'll look like?
Who knows? Intelligent life can take many forms.
You mean they may have green skins and eyes on stalks or something?
The comic book conception is possible, of course. Or they may have developed far beyond us. Perhaps they have a science that can produce weapons far more dangerous than our atomic missiles.
You think we may have to fight our way out?
After all, We are invaders.
Now hear this. Landing time -2.
All right. We heard this. You know what I'd like to find outside that airlock? Good old Illinois. Ever been there, Lustig?
Only Chicago.
Well, you ought to see my hometown. Green lawns, big white houses.
Sounds like my hometown.
My grandmother used to have one of those iron deer on the lawn. Every Halloween, we'd paint another color. One time, we painted it black and white like a Holstein cow.
Where does your family live, Dr. Horst?
I have no family. When I was a child, they were gassed to death in the Dachau concentration camp.
Tough.
No, it has its advantages. I have no ties on Earth. Nothing to lose now. I imagine I'm the only one on board who is free to enjoy our present peculiar position.
All right, Masters, you can button it up now.
Aye, sir.
Well, gentlemen, check your sidearms. In 1 minute, we'll be the first men to set foot on Mars. Quite an honor, eh?
As long as the medals are not rewarded posthumously.
Still uneasy, Dr. Horst?
Captain Black, I've been uneasy ever since I can remember. On Earth and on Mars.
Well, 30 seconds. Give me the intercom phone, Lustig.
Yes, sir.
Masters,
Aye, sir.
battle stations are to be manned until we return. If we're not back in 2 hours, I want no rescue party sent out. Blast off and save the ship, you understand?
Aye, sir.
All right. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lustig, open the outer airlock.
Aye, sir.
It's fresh air.
Let's go. All right, now, take it easy. It's too dark to move fast.
Quiet, isn't it? Not even a wind. Can't see anything from this ground this time.
We don't know what's out here. All right, come on.
What the quiet? Captain, I could swear that sounds like a rooster.
I don't hear it anymore.
Very homely but unlikely sound. A rooster crowing on Mars?
Hingston,
Aye, sir.
set that machine gun 25 yards to the flank. We'll stay here till the ground mist lifts.
Aye, sir.
What do you make of the ground, Horst?
Grass. Plain grass. You can see some large foliage there where the mist's thinned out.
What the? Hingston, hold your fire, you fool! I hit it, Captain. What? Some kind of wild animal. I hit it. I could see the tracers, but it's still standing.
Come on, Horst. Doctor, where are you?
Up ahead, admiring the wild animal.
Careful, Horst. Wait for us.
Don't worry, Captain. It's an iron deer. A lawn ornament.
Well, that's impossible.
It's hollow. Interesting, isn't it? A whitewashed Victorian iron deer sitting on a lawn in the middle of Mars.
I don't understand.
Look around. The mist's lifting.
Hey, Captain, look there. It's a house, a regular old-fashioned house. But, sir, on Mars.
Good Lord. I haven't seen carved scrolls and gingerbread like that in years. Look at that port swing. The geraniums.
There. I told you it was a rooster, Captain.
Give me the glasses, Lustig. I want to take a look through that front window. Well, there's an upright piano. Some sheet music on it. Lustig, it's beautiful Ohio.
Oh, it can't be, sir.
Horst, do you think that civilization of two planets could be identical?
I don't know. That specific variety of geraniums is only 50 years old on Earth.
Is it logical that they should develop in Mars? How about that port swing and the piano and beautiful Ohio? Why, it's impossible.
Captain Black, this looks like the town I was born in.
Well, it looks like my hometown, too.
I've thought of something, sir. It's the only solution. Maybe we're not the first ship to reach Mars from Earth.
Don't be ridiculous, Lustig.
Oh, how else can you explain it? Suppose some scientists got together. They invented some spaceship and planted a colony here. That's the only answer.
That's impossible, Lustig. Been space travel, it couldn't be secret. Do you have any idea what ships cost, what industrial power is needed? No, there's got to be some logical reason.
I think perhaps we might find out, Captain. The light just went on in that house.
Kingston, cover that door with the machine gun.
Aye, sir.
All right, come on, Horst. We're going to ring that doorbell. There's got to be a scientific answer to all this.
And there's something moving in there.
Stand back, Horst. Give me a clear shot.
Are you sure a bullet can stop a Martian?
Steady now.
Can I help you?
Will we...
If you're selling anything, it's much too early.
No, wait just a minute. What town is this?
What do you mean? Are you census takers?
No. We're strangers here. We want to know how this town got here.
Is this a game?
No, it's not a game. We're from Earth.
From where?
From Earth.
Do you mean out of the ground? Are you sure you're feeling well?
Madam, we came in a flying ship across space. We're from the third planet, Earth. This is Mars. Now do you understand? Mars.
You go away now, you hear? I'll call my husband from upstairs and he'll chase you. Go on.
But this is Mars, isn't it?
This is Green Lake, Wisconsin, in the United States of America. Bounded on the east by the Atlantic and on the west by the Pacific. Now go away. Goodbye.
Horst, do you suppose it's really possible? I've got to find out more about this.
I told you I'd call my husband. Now you go away.
You've got to tell me one thing first. What year is this?
Year? 1928, of course. For goodness sake.
You hear that, Horst? And we know it's 1987, and we know this is Mars. Horst, is it possible that we got fouled up, made some tremendous blunder, circled around, and landed back on Earth?
In 1928?
Well, maybe some switch in time or dimension. Could we have shifted somehow, gone backward in time? Oh, Horst, this won't hold water. It's not logical. We checked every mile. We went past the moon, out into space. We're on Mars. Lustig out at point. Hingston in the rear. Keep that gun at half load.
Aye, sir.
Horst, there's got to be some cold, logical solution.
Captain!
What?
That house down the street, the white one with the green shutters.
Lustig, what's the matter?
I never thought of... Thank God!
Lustig, come back here.
He's running for that house.
That crazy fool. After him quick.
Lustig, stop!
Come down off of that porch.
Grandpa!
Lustig, what the devil do you think you're doing?
Albert!
Grandma, Grandpa, it is you.
Lustig, what is going on here?
Albert, it's been so many years.
How you've grown, boy.
It's so good to see you.
Lieutenant Lustig! Oh.
Captain, Grandma, I want you to meet my friends. This is Captain Black. Captain, I want you to meet my grandfolks.
Howdy. Any friend of Albert's is a friend of ours.
How long have you been here, Grandma?
Oh, a good many years, ever since we died.
Ever since you what?
Oh, yes, sir. They've been dead 30 years.
What?
Oh, now, don't you trouble yourself. It's all right. We're alive again, that's all.
Do you mean to tell me that Mars is heaven?
Oh, nonsense, no. All we know is here we're alive again. And who are we to question God's infinite ways?
Well, Lustig, we're going back to the ship.
But, Captain, I want to talk to my grandpa.
Lieutenant Lustig, I don't like any part of this. You'll come back with us if I have to club you and carry you.
I see.
Now, let's go. Heaven only knows what they've run up against back at the ship. Crowd around the ship.
Looks like we're being welcomed with a celebration, Captain.
Celebration? They've abandoned ship. Every port is open. No guard set. You masters!
Hiya, Captain. Meet my old dad. Dad, that's Captain Black. He's not a bad guy for naught.
Hingston!
What's it?
Bring that band back. Use force if you have to.
Excuse me, sir. There's my Uncle George.
Hingston!
I'll be right back, Captain. Uncle George.
What the devil is going on here?
Understand, sir? They've all found friends and relatives. They're all here.
You're right, Captain. I've found it. The whole crew's out in the crowd.
But I gave orders. Definite orders.
You don't understand, Captain.
I understand mutiny. I don't care how many relatives show up. I'll have discipline.
Johnny!
What?
Johnny, you old son of a gun.
It's you. Edward.
Yes.
It can't be.
Oh, of course it is. Johnny,
Ed.
you old...
Ed. Dr. Horst. This is my brother, Edward.
How do you do?
Hello, sir.
It's wonderful to see you, Edward. Look, I've got to get back to my ship.
Oh, Johnny, wait. I almost forgot. Mom's waiting at home.
Mom?
Yeah, and Dad, too.
Mom and Dad are alive? Then you're real, Ed.
Well, of course. Don't I feel real? How's that, huh?
Why, Ed!
We've got lunch for you, Johnny. Mom's making corn fritters.
Dr. Horst, haven't you found anybody?
No, Captain. I have nobody.
Well, then you come on home with me, right, Ed?
Why, sure.
Horst, you wouldn't believe it, but it's been 35 years since I had Mom's corn fritters. By George, 35 years.
kitchen, so don't hold back, Johnny. You too, Dr. Horace.
Well, Johnny, you're still in the Navy, huh?
That's right, Dad. I'm in command of the ship.
We're an old Navy family, Dr. Horst. All three of our boys in the service.
Yeah, Ed was the best pilot in the Pacific, too. What did happen, Ed?
What's the difference? I'm here now.
Yeah, but...
You know, it's almost perfect. All we're missing is your brother Will. Then the whole family could be together.
Well, it won't be long, Mom. Will's in charge of the XR-54. Next rocket coming out to Mars.
Oh. Well, little Will. When does he leave, Johnny?
Well, the takeoff's scheduled for September, but it depends on what we report.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question about that now, huh?
No.
Christmas together again. That'll be something.
Sure will, yes, sirree. Well, this calls for a celebration. How about a little of the old dandelion wine, eh, Johnny?
Now, Father, don't you go giving Johnny too much wine.
He's a big boy now, Mother. Well, sir, isn't everything just fine? Just fine.
Play that one again, will you, Ed?
Oh, sure.
Well, Dr. Horst, what are you doing sitting over here alone? What do you think of my little family?
Very nice.
You know, I can't understand why you didn't find any folks here, Dr. Horst. It's just a shame everybody else is so happy.
Well, I never remembered my family, Mrs. Black. All I know is they were gassed at Dachau during the Second World War. When I was liberated, I was in delirium 3 months. I cannot remember anything before then. A psychiatric phenomena.
Well, that's terrible. Isn't there anything anybody can do?
I don't want to remember. I have not had a pleasant life. I prefer to be free of emotional entanglements. They interfere with a scientific approach.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Horst.
Oh, I'll get it. That's our ring, long and 3 shorts. I remember that.
Well, maybe we'd better call it a night. You must be getting tired, Johnny.
I'd better be going back to the ship.
Nonsense. You stay the night. We insist.
I just couldn't rest thinking of you all alone on that ship.
I'll be all right. Well, good night.
Oh, wait a minute, Dr. Horst. That phone message was for you.
Me?
Yes, that's right. A message from Anna.
Anna? I don't...
Well, there, she must be an old friend. Isn't that nice?
I don't... You sure it was for me? I don't remember any Anna.
Well, she asked if you were better.
Perhaps she's someone who knew you at Dachau.
Anna?
She said she's coming over here first thing in the morning. So you'll have to stay over.
Yes,
well, that settles it then. You stay here, Horst. You can bunk with me in my old room.
Yeah, but Johnny, we thought you'd like to be with Edward.
So you could talk the way you used to.
Well, we can't put Dr. Horst on the daybed. I think we better share the room tonight. Be plenty of time for talking, Ed.
Yes, I guess so.
I suppose I better drop back to the ship. You know, Ed, security check.
What? Why do you have to do that here?
I don't know, Mom. There's no good reason, I guess. Well, suppose we skip it tonight, huh? Well, good night, everybody.
Oh, it's good to have you home, Johnny.
It's good to be home, Mom.
Captain Black.
Huh?
You asleep?
No, I've been thinking about what we were expecting. Green-skinned Martians. All the time there was only Mom and Dad and Edward waiting. That's funny what tricks your imagination can play on you. Well, I guess Mars is heaven, Horst.
You know, I've been thinking about Martians, too. Captain, just suppose there were Martians, and they saw us land, and suppose they thought of us as invaders. What would be the best weapon they could use against our atom bombs, huh?
I don't see what you're getting at.
They would want to disarm us first, huh? To wipe out all suspicion, to make us feel at home. Captain, suppose this house isn't real. Suppose the people are just images, stolen from our own memories by Martians, created for us by telepathy, hypnotist.
Oh, that's the craziest theory I ever heard.
Maybe that's why there was no one for me. Because in all my life, there is no happy memory, no real loved person, not even my mother. I don't remember her. Only the piles of rotting corpses at Dachau. There was no happy emotion for these people to recreate.
How about that phone call? Anna?
Yes, Anna. I didn't remember who she was, but I do now. I just remembered. When I was freed from Dachau, sick, delirious, I raved about a wonderful, kind nurse named Anna that took care of me.
Well, there you are. It's logical. She's coming to see you tomorrow.
But there was no Anna. I'd been nursed by a man.
What?
Anna was only a dream. And there's only one way they could have learned about her, by reading my subconscious mind.
That's impossible, Horace.
Why? A whole crew was thinking of home. Suppose the Martians read our minds.
Yes, but if there are Martians...
If there are, they have us separated. Each man in a different house, sleeping, trusting. No one at the guns.
I left my pistol downstairs. Do you think there's something to this, Horst?
It's a perfect trap, Captain. Who would suspect his own mother, his grandparents? How easy. Just a knife in the heart of each sleeping man.
That's impossible, Horst. But we've got to get back to the ship.
Listen. The crickets have stopped. Come on. We don't know when they change back to whatever they really are.
All right, careful.
Where are you going, John?
Ed, we wanted a drink of water. That's all, Ed.
You're not thirsty, John. You don't want a drink.
Look out!
You don't want a
His
drink.
face! It's changing! He's a Martian! Run, Horst! Run!
You can't get away, John.
This way, Horst! Horst, where are you?
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me, Earth? This is Captain John Black, the XR-53 calling from Mars. I've locked myself in the ship, but they've crippled it. I can't take off or fire the guns, and they're coming for me now, the Martians. I'm all alone here. All the rest are dead. Hinkston, Lustig, Dr. Horst. Poor Horst, he didn't even reach the door. Listen! They're trying to break through the hull. Edward and Mom and Dad and all the folks, but they're changing now. They're melting and changing back into... They're Martians. Can you understand? Martians, not men. They made us think that Mars was heaven and we fell into the trap. Can you hear me, Earth? You've got to stop the next rocket. Listen, tell my brother Will. Tell my brother not to come. They'll trap him too. They'll kill them all. Hello? Can you hear me, Earth? This is John Black on Mars. Hello, Earth. This is John Black on Mars. Hello, Earth. Hello, Earth.
Tonight, X-1 has brought you the science fiction classic, Mars is Heaven, written by Ray Bradbury and adapted for radio by Ernest Kenoy. Featured in the cast were Wendell Holmes as Captain Black and Peter Capell as Dr. Horst, with Bill Zuckert as Masters, Bill Lipton as Hinkston, Margaret Berlin as the Old Lady, Bill Griffiths as Edward, Ken Williams as Lustig, Ethel Everett as Mom, and Edwin Jerome as Dad. Your announcer, Fred Collins. X-1 was directed by Fred Way and is a transcribed NBC Radio Network production. -1.
That was Mars is Heaven from X-1 here on the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society podcast. Once again, I'm Eric.
I'm Tim.
And I'm Joshua.
And that was from Cheryl as we continue our listener library series, meaning we are spending the summer getting caught up in all our listener requests. We brought up Lou Grant in the intro, and I was talking to you guys, and you're like, we didn't watch Lou Grant, and it was a huge thing in my life. I mean, the family shut down, and we went into the living room and watched Lou Grant, and it was phenomenal. And I'll never forget the day when I realized that Charlie Hume, Mason Adams, oh, that's that guy that's on CBS Radio Mystery Theater all the time. And I was really excited to see that he was an actual human.
Yeah, that was that weird period of time in the 70s where they spun off from sitcoms serious dramas, like Trapper John M.D. from MASH.
Yeah.
And as a kid, that just messed with my mind. Like, what happened to Lou Grant? He got in an accident and now he's not funny. And it didn't make any sense to me.
The Trapper John spawned the bucket list dream of mine. Now I'm married with a kid, it'll never happen. But this idea that I want to live in a trailer, in a mobile home. That guy lived in a mobile home in the parking lot. That was fantastic. I want to live in a mobile home in a parking lot.
The predecessor of Miami Vice living on a boat.
Did they live on that boat?
Don Johnson lived on a boat, right? He had 2 crocodiles.
I don't know.
We might be a little off topic right now.
Okay.
I wish we had a topic to discuss.
Anyway, X-1, it was fine. All right, Tim, let's wrap this up. So, X-1, if you're new to the podcast for some reason or have not heard all of them, I have frequent issues with X-1. It's problematic for me. I will start here. What do you guys think, after all of this time, that I thought of this X-1? What would be your guess, knowing what you know about me now?
I would guess that you liked it, particularly the ending.
Because he got killed?
Because there are monsters at the end.
It's not a car chase scene, but it's
you're
good.
You're like the opposite of that old children's book. There's a monster at the end of this book. You're like the anti-Grover who's excited about it. Let's get to the end of the book.
Do you think I liked it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, all right, so...
are we both fired?
No, not at all.
Is this a whole new thing we're doing on the podcast? Guess what Eric thinks? Because it's actually really fun.
Let's start a new podcast called that.
And what are you thinking, Eric?
Yeah, that's
Lou Grant.
I hear that line enough all day. What are you thinking? I will tell you that for the most part, I liked it. It has its problematic moments for me that X-1 does to me frequently, and it pulls me out of the story. I think the story is great.
Let's get right into the problems.
All right.
Fight.
This is a writer thing, I guess. So you do no pre-scouting of Mars at all? You didn't send in a probe? You didn't take some pictures? You just, you know what? There it is. We're going to land. And then open this airlock and cross our fingers. There was no...
Well, from the
so
opening sound effects of like the piping and the general quarters alarm, it literally sounded like they just took a boat, pointed it up, and sent it on its way.
It did. I made a note about the alarm, too, that was, I guess the future, we're just going to stick with that alarm for everything.
Again, not surprising to anyone listening or to Eric, those are things that I love about this. Because really, this is about Earth 1950. Earlier, it's about colonization. So he is treating this spaceship like a boat. You just show up somewhere hoping the natives don't kill you, or hoping you can kill the natives first, as the case may be.
Yeah, it's very Columbus.
That's what not just Ray Bradbury's going for, but I think science fiction at this time was going for. And obviously, I don't think we had the technological ideas that you would scan a planet or send probes there until...
Open a window.
Yeah.
Take a peek.
Well, actually, in the original short story, they do look down from the ship, and from above, they see the houses. And they see everything before they land, and then they go check it out. Here, I think whoever's adapting this, it must be Ernest Kinoy. He adapts most of these, but he wants to just build up the fact that they have no idea what they're walking into. That's where he thinks the suspense is coming from. And that took you out of it, but I think it's very intentional. They are the first men to set foot on Mars. We have no idea what's going on here.
Yes, I completely see that point of view now. I was thinking, this is so reckless.
Well, it's dangerous, I think is what they're going for.
Yeah.
Is that
and I don't think anybody would do that. Like, just going to send these 17 guys, we're going to land the thing. But
every
I love
time
the idea.
Every human being in our history has gotten into a spaceship, that's exactly what they're doing.
No, we've looked at it for a while before we go land, right?
I'm sure that
and then we knew
I've seen the moon at night. We're good.
If we didn't do that,
they had a landing spot picked out. I mean, they didn't land there, but they had one picked out.
They wouldn't have had the heavy boots. They would have floated away, for example.
Yeah.
They knew it didn't have an atmosphere.
I get your point, but if you're looking for naturalistic or hard sci-fi, you're not going to get it out of Ray Bradbury.
I will say that I like your analogy. It is like getting on a boat and going to some undiscovered country and getting off and hoping the natives are friendly.
The
So I
captain
like
even
that.
says to the crew, we may be on Mars, but this is still a U.S. Navy vessel.
Yeah.
So
They're really leaning into the idea that they're there to conquer it. They're not there to be friendly. They're there to take over whatever is there.
It's colonization themed, which is you don't just colonize and be neighbors.
no.
You could try.
Yes.
The historical moment of we're going to Mars and this amazing thing, and we're going to be the first men on Mars, and he gets on this bullhorn or this comm system, and his entire speech he's prepared is, well, we're on Mars. That's not going to be remembered forever. That made me laugh really hard.
But he
That's what
says
he came
specifically
up with.
that he's trying to take their minds off of it, and it's designed. He even threatens them with court-martial if they behave unearthly. But I think that entire beginning is there to set up why these crew members would be so prone to nostalgia and a desire for home.
Yeah.
Like, the more frightening and alien the prospects are, the more we could see them being taken in by this Martian hoax.
Right. I love this story. I think it's a fantastic concept, but there are these moments where the writing goes off track just for a second. Like, well, we're on
color
Mars.
or detail.
No, I mean, like being more true to what a captain might say in this historical moment instead of, well, we're on Mars.
Well, he's not broadcasting to the planet Earth.
No.
For one thing. He's not broadcasting for posterity. He's broadcasting for keeping his crew together in that moment.
Okay, how about this moment in writing? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Lustig, open the airlock. Like, the countdown is now meaningless. There was no point to count that backwards and down. He counts backwards and then doesn't say 1, and then it goes 1, and then there's more to say.
Quickly making some change for someone before he opened the door. Hang on 1 second. And
Before
15
you
makes
get-
10.
Before you get too mad at me, Josh.
No, Tim covered it. That's what I was going to say.
Do you understand what I'm saying about those little tiny things that pull me out in writing? Like, if you're going to do a countdown, then at 1, boom. There are little things like that that make me crazy that X-1 does a lot of.
I hear you.
And it doesn't bug you.
It's 1950s science fiction. I'm not focused on the details.
Right.
I'm focused on the bigger thematic ideas, particularly when it's a Ray
course.
Bradbury story. And that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. It actually fills me with joy because it's 1950s science fiction. And if there's extra countdowns in it, I am like, yes.
And of course, I have no ground to stand on. Nothing. Because I am a fan of the original Star Trek. Which is the goofiest, most loopholey thing ever written. And I forgive Star Trek because of my childhood memories. And I think that X-1 is a 52-year-old man at this point saying, you could have cleaned that up. This is my line. It's right here in my notes. I'll read it word for word. I love this story despite all of that. I do love this concept of the deception. But then there's this. They very quickly accept the dead people. I think that's a product of a 30-minute script, but I would have liked to have seen a little more exploration into, what is happening
Let's
here?
test this just a little bit.
Right, or freaking out, or like, oh my God, it was, hey, it's Grandma. Sweet, I'm going to have some cornbread.
I think the writers went to some effort in their adaptation to front load this with the fear and anxiety to answer that exact question. Whether or not it worked for you, I think that's why we spent so much time landing and preparing and talking about the mist on the ground so you can't see what's out there. And they even have the moment at the doors where they're speculating about what the Martians look like, and maybe they could be super advanced and frightening. Maybe they look like comic book Martians. And so there's all this fear and anticipation, and then it's revealed to be perplexing at first. These are things from Earth. This is a lawn ornament of a deer that we shot with a machine gun. Whoops.
Yeah, that guy, he might need some court-martialing.
No, they seem to be all on board with that. Did you shoot something good?
But first they recognize that it's stuff from Earth. Even the sheet music is Beautiful Ohio. Could this be parallel evolution that somehow involves songs about Ohio? And then we meet people. The Martians look like people. Then we realize they're actually related to the crew. And then I think the critical hook is that these are people related to the crew who are dead.
Right.
And that wish fulfillment of seeing your dead loved ones again is the hook.
And that heaven exists.
Yeah, or this could be heaven. But they pretty quickly shoot that down as being ridiculous in this story.
There's a few theories, like, could we have gone back in time? No,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. But this is ridiculous.
Yeah. And so they do struggle with it, but I think with Bradbury, he is not about realism. It's about
the big picture.
It's more fantasy than science fiction.
Right.
Yeah, well, and for all my poke and fun, because it's fun to poke fun, especially pairing this with The Ravine that we did not too long ago, of another Bradbury theme of just living in that world where familiar small town things take on a really sinister air.
And that's what Bradbury
awesome.
does.
Yeah.
This is all about the beauty and simultaneously the danger of nostalgia. It's equal parts comforting and deadly. And that seems to be something that Bradbury plays with a lot.
Right. Do you want a couple more of my issues, or do you just
keep them coming?
He's made me crazy.
I'll swat them out of the way.
And airline food.
If someone says to you, my parents and family were gassed to death in Dachau, I don't think that's tough. That was the most unempathetic response. Yeah, that's tough. And that guy couldn't shut up about Dachau.
Wait a second.
Fair enough. I don't think you'd say to someone like, could you please stop with the Dachau story?
I was like, heard it.
We all have problems.
Well, that's my point. He says, yeah, they were gassed to death in Dachau. And the guy's like, yeah, I lost a dog once.
I feel like I'm defending this as a shtick, but I mean it quite seriously. That to me, that reflects that awkward moment. You're at work. This is a coworker, even though you've just gone through space to Mars, and everyone's had those coworkers who tell you horrible things, but you don't know them that well. You can't offer your fellow naval officer a hug, maybe in this historic moment. But I think it had that feeling of an awkward, I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, and the character, he didn't take it as like, I lived this traumatized life because of this. It's just, it's shaped my identity as being kind of unattached to things, and it's just who I am.
Yeah, that's part of Horst's character, is he feels that has given him the ability to be logical and detached.
And also it's the setup to how they discover what's wrong, because they can't create anything for him. So all of that it's a useful vehicle.
And in reading about the story, I hadn't actually read the story, this character is not in the original story.
Which I think is fascinating, because it tells you a lot about the differences between the two mediums. I recently reread the short story, and the realization in the short story that it's some sort of telepathy or trick on the part of the Martians is just something the captain realizes while he is in bed that night. There's no character of Horst, but it works really effectively in Bradbury's story because it has that quality of you're in bed at night and you're thinking about things and they seem kind of ridiculous, but there in the dark, even the most far out thought has that little seed of could it be? And so it's all that half dream, half awake thing where it all in this horrible moment comes to him that's what's happening. But that's a really boring thing in radio. It would have to be an inner monologue.
Hey!
That's all you have to, that's wait a minute.
I'm so sorry, Cheryl. We really enjoyed this.
Well,
and we would have enjoyed it too if it weren't for those meddling Martians. But what's also interesting is that in Bradbury's short story, this is, as Tim said in the intro, the third expedition. So we've already, in Martian Chronicles, read about two other doomed expeditions. And so the reader knows that the Martians have these telepathic powers. The suspense comes from, oh, crap, when are these guys going to figure it out? They are so screwed.
Okay.
And here, using Horst, it gives the readers clues. It's almost like a mystery. So when it's revealed that the Martians are doing this through telepathy, the clues have been laid out for the reader. So it's a different type of suspense, which I find interesting, and both work very effectively.
How long does it take to get to Mars on a ship? It's 50 years?
In reality?
Yeah.
A long time.
You'd think Dachau would have come up.
You're not going to let that go. Here's another thing that I really love about that is because it stands out. We're laughing about it, but it stands out here because it is a really shocking bit of real world truth in the middle of this science fiction story, and it really grounds it suddenly.
What year is this?
1955 was when this was adapted.
But this broadcast set, if I'm right, in like 1990?
1987, yep.
1987.
But this was broadcast in 55. So, I mean, that is very fresh in everybody's minds at that point. So
everybody would know somebody like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not making fun.
I know you're not.
It is just the peak of awkward conversation to try to bring this up. No easy segue.
Also, the future, we've figured out how to get to Mars, but we still got pistols. Are they guns? Just all out?
I think they're just guns. It might be that I'm desensitized this from reading so much Bradbury, where really it's that science fiction that really isn't about the future.
It's
the
about
Martian
the concepts.
Chronicles is about the fears and anxieties of Earth circa 1950.
Right.
Mars is just, once they colonize it, it is a town out of Earth 1950. It's all about colonization throughout history and the treatment of natives and about atomic war. There's nothing about this book that's looking ahead to the future.
And let me piggyback on that with the idea that it is 1955, and I think that it would be very much on people's minds, is there a heaven or not, since so many people had lost so many people. And at that point, we're still missing them and hurting and grieving. And so the concept of an afterlife is comforting. And so for these astronauts, or whatever they are, these space soldiers, get to this planet and see that it's true, I think it's for the listeners also a very relieving and yay moment. So,
it just occurred to me that the city is 1927?
28, yep.
So like a year before the crash, this kind of golden age.
Yeah.
Before everything
fell apart.
After the Great War. But
And Wisconsin, right? Isn't that what she said?
Yep, it's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, they're in
it's
Wisconsin.
the Midwest. It's just homey and comfortable.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
filled
it's
with
not
murderous Martians.
It's not
Like
Minnesota,
Wisconsin.
but it's fine.
I love the voice work when the familiar people turn into Martians with their voice. Like, you don't want to drink. It's over the top, but
it
in the
sells the
situation, it's like,
transformation.
ugh. And his desperate cries, the way it ends, just trying to call back to Earth.
Yes, I did. You were right.
Wendell
I did love
Holmes
the
does
ending.
a fantastic job there as the captain.
Do you understand?
But it's hysterical, so you feel bad for him. He's trying to say, do you understand? But like, dude, you're not even making your point here.
Mars bad. Very bad.
Here's my one last beef. Last one.
All right.
Because I got others, but I'll let it go. Because I brought this up before, and it makes me so crazy. And you've explained it away in X-1 for me many times. And
Is it the music?
It's the music. This time,
Oh,
they
for
actually
crying out
had
loud.
the theme from Leave It to Beaver at one point was playing. It's so weird. And I know
I
you
have
love
the
it.
actual notes here that says, yay, cheery transition music that Eric hates.
That is exactly right. I can't stand. Can you just give me a low note on an organ?
The reason it sounds like Leave It to Beaver, though, is it was what incidental music sounded like in the 50s, but
when you lived in Ohio, that's what music sounds like.
That's what beautiful Ohio sounds like. That's By the way, that's the state song. I looked it up. Written in 1919.
Oh.
Yeah, I Googled something this time. I even listened to the song. It's terrible.
Sorry, Ohio.
Yeah, it's just not that catchy. I think that the Leave It to Beaver folks could actually sue them for that song. I mean, it was dead on.
Ridiculously wrong, but I can let it go.
All right, let's talk more about what Josh was talking about. In all the things that Joshua was saying, he's absolutely right. In the concept of it, the time it was written, how Bradbury writes, it's not about those details. It's about the bigger picture and about these concepts and about delving into our fears and our social issues and things of that nature and putting them into future tense or space tense. So let me re-emphasize. I really like this story. I think the things that you told me about the Martian Chronicles would have been nice to know. But again, we were working on a 30-minute adaptation. I think it was really well performed, and I loved the Foley, and it was a great enjoyment to listen to. It's just that X-1 has these moments that pulls me out.
Wait, really? Tell us about it.
Well, I have a list here. Would you like to hear this list?
Speaking of Foley.
They did no scouting of Mars.
Speaking of Foley, I really loved the crickets at the end. When Horst and the captain are having the discussion. And I was into the cricket sound before it became a plot point, but because it's in the background at first, it's really peaceful, and the more Horst describes the possibility of them being fooled by telepathy, the crickets become more and more ominous. They don't change the sound at all, but it's just the effect of what you're hearing in front of the crickets makes this once very comfortable thing become more and more sinister. So the crickets by themselves seem to reflect all the themes of the entire story, and then when they cut out, because the Martians have overheard it and figured it out and like, well, we're not going to screw with making crickets in the background now. They figured it out. That's a lot of extra work. Let's cut out the crickets and come kill them. That's a great moment.
All the Martians in the family room were like, oh, God, can we stop doing that noise?
Who was in charge of crickets? All right, you can stop. They're on to us.
Daco guy figured it out.
It's a brilliant radio audio moment, though.
I do agree with that. As weird as this is going to sound at this point, I really did enjoy this. I did.
No one believes you, Eric.
I just had these issues with X-1.
Tim, what did you think?
I liked it. There's certain moments where it sort of asks you to let us ignore the science questions you might have here and just move forward. And you kind of have to go. But it offers a lot in exchange as far as a compelling story that makes you think about a lot of different stuff. Wow, I just sounded like I'm 11. It really makes you think about stuff. But it did. It made me think about stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a fair assessment of it and of all of Bradbury's work. Like I said, you have to take this leap in logic. He's more about the images and the ideas, and he will sacrifice realism in order to gain some sort of aesthetic. I think it really captures the spirit of Bradbury's original story quite well. I would say it is a classic. I actually wrote in my notes.
Wow.
It's an effing classic.
Wow. So
which might be a new category in the show.
Wow.
So that explains... I literally saw the hair on your neck rise when I started to talk. Because you have written down classic, and I start off with, I got all these issues. And you're like...
It's just my opinion. I'm not
that
invested
I am wrong.
in the podcast, really, guys. This is my last one.
So those of you who are running bets on what we'll think, you can write down that Joshua said effing classic.
Tim?
I don't know that I would say it's classic, but it certainly stands the test of time. Bradbury is just amazing. Everything that I read of his is beautiful. And this production, I think, is a good production of his work.
I think it stands the test of time. A lot of fun, and it was a great story. And I won't put the classic thing on it, but I think that my issues with X-1 are my own. I don't think they have any merit.
Oh, I think they do. I'm going to bring one of the really, really awful X-1s to the podcast, just so Eric can feel like totally vindicated. You. Like, yes! This sucks space rocks. Yes.
All right, Tim, why don't you tell them some stuff?
Hey, please go visit ghoulishdelights.com if you're not already there. When you're at that website, you'll see other episodes of this podcast. You can see ways to get a hold of us, either through our contact form there or via Facebook or Instagram. I'm, by gum, going to get Twitter going again. Wow, I really let Twitter go. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you know it's probably not going to happen because he used the term by gum.
By golly, I will.
Okay. The chances just went up ever so slightly. Oh, And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/themorals and become a member of the Mysterious Old Radio Listening Society. There's all sorts of great perks there. You can hear some bonus content. You can get access to our members-only podcast, The Secrets of the Mysterious Old Radio. It's a lot of fun for those who are so inclined. You can also click on our Friends of the Society page and find out about some of our other old-time radio pals and what they are doing. There are links to new audio creations, 3 chimes to midnight.
12 chimes to midnight.
3? I'm sorry. I got really excited.
Wow.
And just got
There's been inflation.
It's sooner to midnight.
I was thinking of the atomic clock. I think we're 3 minutes to midnight on that. My apologies. 12 minutes to midnight. 12 chimes. I don't even know what's going on. I don't update the page. I've never been there.
It features 12 times to midnight, Monster Kid Radio, Breaking Walls.
Yes.
Exciting
And
podcast.
also, speaking of Friends of the Society, I do want to make a little plug for Cheryl, our listener, who recommended Mars is Heaven, is also a mystery novelist who writes a series of mystery novels set in the 30s around old-time radio. I don't know why she listens to this. So you might want to check out her books. I'm reading the first one right now, The Darkness Knows. We'll put a link in the post.
Why didn't you tell me that before we started? Now I look like an idiot. This published novelist that knows what she's talking about sends this recommendation, and I'm going, now I'm an idiot. Cheryl, I'm wrong. X-1 is a classic.
She listened to this because she wants our subjective opinions.
As long as we're still spinning our wheels here, I forgot to mention at GhostLights.com you can find information about our live shows, because we do live shows.
Yeah.
All right, that was all.
Yeah, we're going to be doing Fringe Festival.
In 2018, just
Yes.
to make sure we
Gotta
know
keep
what
that year
year. Anyway, you can also write an iTunes review. Are we almost done yet?
I think so.
Well, we're on Mars. Good job. The next one is yours, Joshua.
Yes, and we'll be listening to an episode of Suspense called The Devil's Saint. Until then...
Look out! It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Well, we're on Mars.
Well, sir, isn't everything just fine? Just fine.
Leave it to Beaver.